Yo, what is up everybody? What's going on? DJ Kev here, back at it again with another video, and today we're going to be talking about mobile DJ event pricing in 2025. So obviously as DJs, we typically have one of the most fun jobs in the world. However, in order to keep up with the hobby that we love and be able to afford all the new gear and speakers and eggs and keeping our wives happy so that we can keep DJing, we have to make sure our pricing is on point for the market. So I'm going to go through 3 different tiers of pricing. So if you guys watch my channel, I do many different events, whether it's weddings, birthday parties, basketball games, bars, or even some charity events. I have done them. I've been DJing for about 5 years, so this video will likely be more geared towards relatively newer DJs that are just like me, who are wondering what they should be charging for each different event that they do. Obviously as a mobile event DJ, we all know you make the most money doing weddings, but I'll get there. I'm going to go through 3 different levels of pricing just to give you an idea of what my thought process is when it comes to different events. So starting at the lowest tier, these are my very low end events. Right from the bottom, my cheapest gig ever in my 5 years of doing this are obviously free events. This is when you're just starting and you're trying to gain experience and really trying to gain exposure. Just let people know you're trying to DJ regularly. This mostly includes house parties for friends, family, and in some cases for me, charity events. And when you're just starting, free events are okay. You really are going to want to gain the experience and really find out, is this really for you? Those parties will make or break you. Moving on, these are still considered low-end events for me, and this includes DJing at bars, DJing for basketball games, being a roadie for other DJs, and aside from DJing, just renting in my photo booth. So these events for me, I charge around $250. And just to briefly explain why, when it comes to each of those events that I listed, starting with the basketball games that I do, I typically DJ the hour and a half for warm-ups. I play a song for each timeout, and of course in between quarters, and maybe mix for about 15 minutes for halftime. So it's really not that much DJing. And when it comes to bars, I'm not DJing at the biggest nightclubs in the state. I'm DJing for local bars, and usually they're pretty cheap when it comes to DJs. Now every bar is different, but obviously the newer you are, the less they're gonna offer you. And when it comes to being a roadie for another DJ, you obviously don't have much say and how much they're gonna give you, but for an extra $250 plus tip if you're not doing anything else that day, I think that's pretty good. And again, aside from DJing, if you're just renting out your photo booth, it's obviously a much easier setup and an easier shift, so obviously it's gonna be cheaper, but again, still more money in your pockets if you're not doing anything that night anyways. However, nowadays for some low-end parties, I tell my friends or family that they may not even need a DJ, because eventually it will get to a point where the time spent setting up, working the night, breaking down, will just not be worth your time when it comes to just a couple $100s. And that's mainly for my DJs who are married with kids, where you can likely use that time a little more wisely when it comes to those low tier events. So next up, when it comes to middle tier events, this is where most of my events live. So these are more of your typical regular private events where they're not house parties, but they're also not weddings where you need to be planning to the extreme. So these are more of your milestone birthdays, like 30th birthdays, 40th birthdays, 50th birthdays. And if you DJ at a specific bar long enough, eventually they'll start paying you more to make it to this middle tier. And again, aside from DJing, when I rent out my 360 photo booth, my pricing for that lives in this middle tier of around $400. Now again, I know you guys are ready to type in the comments like that's not enough. But in my opinion, if you're just DJing, that's more than enough for me. So that is my base pricing for this middle tier. But I will say majority of the time when it comes to these planned events, when I offer dance floor lighting or one of my photo booths, those add-ons may turn that middle tier event into a higher end event of close to $1,000 or maybe $750 if they just want one of the add-ons. So for dance floor lighting, I charge $300 extra, and for my regular photo booth, I charge $300 extra, and for the 360, $400 extra. And one little honorable mention that I'll put in this middle tier is when I send out a referral to a wedding DJ and I work as a roadie for them, that person will likely give you an additional finder's fee for bringing them that event. So in those cases, I've been paid close to $700 when it came to being a roadie plus the finder's fee. And again, when you're a little bit newer like me, you can sniff out a client who likely needs a DJ with a little more experience DJing and MCing, or maybe has those special effects that you don't have, to really give them what they're looking for. So yes, even though I'm capable of DJing a wedding, when it comes comes to Jersey, you can tell which clients are looking for those high-end finishes and more assistance with planning. So that's why sometimes I don't mind handing those off to a wedding DJ with more experience. When it comes to these high-tier, high-end, most expensive events for me, this is where events like weddings or corporate events and surprisingly holiday parties like to live. So my most expensive event in the last 5 years of me DJing, I was able to lock in a price of $1,850. So obviously that included ceremony, cocktail, reception, dance for lighting, photo booth. So as we all know, when it comes to weddings, there is extensive planning. You need that Game 7 mentality where it's do or die because this is a one-of-one event. DJs really run the night when it comes to weddings. And when it comes to these corporate holiday parties, it's been very easy to have these events get you minimum $1,000 because these events are tax write-offs for companies. It's the end of the year, so they'll know they have the room for spending. And if the company's nice enough, they'll typically want everything to make their company look good. And of course, when it comes to working a difficult job all year long, you and your coworkers are going to want to cope together. And again, if the company's nice enough, they're going to want to take care of their people. So throughout this video, you may have heard some prices and thought to yourself, why are those prices so low? And of course, I really don't mind being transparent when it comes to my pricing because I just feel like for my clientele, my pricing is appropriate. I don't DJ full time. It's basically a side hustle for me. So I've been fortunate enough that anything I make from DJing is basically extra cash. I also don't do any aggressive marketing. So far I am pretty comfortable with my setup, so luckily I don't have to make up for those losses in that aspect. But again, for my beginners out there will be plenty of times where you need to increase your pricing. And that's for your events with extensive planning, events where you could sniff out a difficult client, when you start noticing you're getting booked every weekend, when it's an event when you have to bring all of your equipment out the house, or you could just feel it out that you're getting more confident in your skills or emceeing. Or if you're really just never sure, every new year that you DJ consistently, you should definitely increase your pricing. Consistency is definitely key. You're going to want to find ways to corner in your market, and by doing that, you obviously have to be somewhat good. Start with your friends and family. Make sure they know you'll always be the go-to when it comes to needing a DJ, because then they'll refer out to their friends and family. Make sure you network with other DJs, make friends with them, because there's definitely enough parties out there for everybody, and you're not going to be the perfect fit for every single party. So sometimes you'll throw another DJ a bone, and in return they'll throw you one back. And if you're just starting out, you're likely not DJing full-time as well. So whatever job you do, make it known to your coworkers that you're a DJ, and you'll be their go-to DJ, and they'll tell their friends and family. And sometimes, if you're in a culture where word spreads quickly, make sure you stay in touch with your culture and remain aware of certain traditions or styles or must plays for those type of events. Because for me, once I did well at a Filipino party, word spread like wildfire, and I was able to be one of the main go-to Filipino DJs in my area. So yes, that may work for some and not others, but I really just wanted to give any tips or tricks that I've learned in these past 5 years to those who are willing to listen. Never in my life did I think I'd ever be able to make an extra $20,000 on a fun hobby that I love doing. Eventually you'll find a comfort zone where you'll know exactly where your pricing will balance out with the time and preparation that you'll know you'll need for an event. I feel like being transparent when it comes to pricing as mobile DJs is really important because we should all know where our pricing lands in our market, especially with all the different types of events that we do. But anyways, leave a comment down below if you feel like my pricing is way too low or way too high, or if you have any tips on how we could all make more money. It's 2025, so you guys know where to find me or what to do. My name is DJ Kev, and I'll catch you guys at the next video. Peace.